By the time Hannah whispered, "You can leave if my kids are too much," our date had already gone wildly off script. 5 minutes earlier, she'd been laughing across a candlelit table, one hand around a glass of wine, looking like the kind of woman who had learned to carry 3 jobs worth of responsibility inside one calm smile. Then her phone lit up. Everything changed after that. My name is Owen Parker. I'm 37, and for most of my adult life, I've been the kind of man people describe with words like reliable, steady, and good in a crisis, which is a flattering way of saying I built myself into someone useful after my divorce and forgot how to be anything else for a while. I'm a physical therapist in Raleigh, North Carolina. I own a small clinic with a friend from grad school. My days are all schedules, treatment plans, old injuries, post-surgery frustration, and reminding people that healing usually takes longer than they want it to. It's a good life, quiet, respectable, manageable, also a little lonely if I'm being honest. I hadn't been on a real date in almost a year when my sister decided that was pathetic and set me up with Hannah Ellis, a 34-year-old pediatric nurse with 2 kids, a sharp sense of humor, and the kind of eyes that looked like they'd seen too much and still chosen kindness anyway. "Don't be weird about the kids," my sister told me beforehand. "I'm not weird about kids. You are a little too careful around anything that matters." That was irritatingly accurate. Still, I said yes to the date. And from the second Hannah sat down across from me at the restaurant, I knew my sister had been unbearably right. She was beautiful, yes, but not in a polished, trying to impress you way. She felt real. Dark hair pulled back, simple blue dress, small gold earrings, no drama. She asked good questions, listened to the answers, and had this dry little smile that showed up right before she said something devastatingly funny. Within 20 minutes, we were arguing about whether kids' movies are secretly written to emotionally manipulate adults. "They absolutely are," she said. "If a cartoon starts with a widowed parent and a soft piano track, I'm done for. That's because you work in pediatrics and have no emotional defenses left. That's because I'm human. I remain unconvinced." She laughed, and something in my chest eased. That was the dangerous part. Not that I was attracted to her. That happened immediately. It was how easy it felt to be with her. No performance, no forced chemistry, no dragging a conversation uphill. Just 2 adults, both a little tired, both a little cautious, somehow finding the exact same rhythm anyway. By the time dessert came, I'd stopped noticing the room around us. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen and the color shifted in her face. It wasn't panic exactly, worse, recognition. The kind that says trouble has arrived in a form you've already met before. "Everything okay?" I asked. She read the message, exhaled once, then looked up at me with apology already written all over her expression. "My sitter is my neighbor's college daughter," she said. "My youngest woke up crying, my oldest is trying to calm him down, and apparently that has turned the house into a tiny emotional union strike." I smiled despite myself. "That sounds serious." "It is, if you're 6. She grabbed for her purse. "I'm so sorry. I never should have stayed out this late on a school night. I thought they'd both be asleep by now." "It's okay." "No, it's not. This was going really well, and now I'm doing exactly what I said I didn't want to do, which is make my life feel like a cautionary tale over appetizers." I frowned. "Hannah," she stopped. "You having children is not a cautionary tale." That landed. I could see it. She looked at me for a second too long, then gave me a small nod and looked away like she didn't entirely trust herself with kindness right then. We left the restaurant together. I offered to drive her home since she'd only come from the hospital and was already running on too little sleep. She hesitated, then said yes. The drive should have been awkward. It wasn't. She kicked off her heels in the passenger seat, tucked one foot under herself, and told me the cleaned-up version of her life. Divorced 4 years. 2 kids. Ava was 8. Max was 6. Her ex had moved to Denver with his new wife and had recently discovered that long-distance fatherhood was apparently very flexible when golf weekends appeared. I kept my hands on the wheel and said, "That sounds exhausting." "It is," she gave a tired laugh. "I'm trying very hard not to overshare on a first date." "You're doing great. I only know one terrible thing about him so far." You know 5 I edited? That got me. By the time we pulled up outside her townhouse, the porch light was already on. Hannah saw it and groaned softly. They're still awake. Do you want me to walk you in? She looked surprised by the question. I don't mean inside, I said. Just to the door, in case tonight's emotional union strike has escalated. A smile tugged at her mouth. You really are dangerously decent, aren't you? I try to keep it subtle. She opened the door before I could answer, and we stepped onto the walkway. The minute Hannah unlocked the front door, a little boy in dinosaur pajamas came sprinting across the living room, launched himself straight at her legs, and wrapped both arms around her. Behind him, an older girl stood near the couch with her arms folded, trying hard to look like she was not worried and failing in the face. Mom, the boy said into Hannah's dress, Olivia had to leave, and Ava said you were on a date, and I thought maybe you weren't coming back until morning. Hannah crouched immediately and gathered him in. Hey, no, I was always coming home. Always. That should have been the whole scene. Simple, tender, manageable. But then Ava looked past her, at me, and I watched that little girl do the exact math her mother had probably spent years fearing. New man. At the door. After bedtime. Her face closed off in 1 second. Hannah noticed too. She stood, looked at me, then at them, and all at once I could see the embarrassment, the protectiveness, and the old hurt rising in her at the same time. She stepped closer, lowered her voice, and said quietly, You can leave if my kids are too much. And the expression on her face made it painfully clear that wasn't really what she meant. What she meant was, You can leave if my real life ruins this. You can leave before this gets complicated. You can leave now like other men do. I looked past her at the boy still clinging to her and the little girl pretending not to watch me. Then I looked back at Hannah. And for the first time that night, I realized this date had never really been about whether I liked her. It was about whether I could handle the part of her life that actually mattered most. I didn't leave. That was the first decision. Not a dramatic one, not heroic, just simple. Hannah looked at me like she was already preparing to forgive me for choosing the easy exit, and something about that made my answer come faster. I'm not going anywhere unless you ask me to. Her face changed, not fully, just enough. Max, still wrapped around her leg, peeked at me from behind the blue fabric of her dress. Ava kept her arms crossed near the couch, chin slightly lifted in a way that told me she had learned suspicion young and was very proud of how well she wore it. Fair. I crouched near the doorway, keeping some distance. Hey, I said to Max. I'm Owen. He looked at my shoes first, then my face. Are you Mom's date? Hannah closed her eyes. I heard her whisper, Max. What? He said. Ava said it. Ava's eyes widened. I said maybe. You said definitely. I said probably. That's not better, Hannah muttered. I fought a smile and looked at Max seriously. I was her dinner friend tonight. Max frowned. That sounds fake. It does, Ava said. Hannah gave me a mortified look. I'm so sorry. Honestly, they're making strong points. That got the smallest laugh out of her before she could stop it. Then Max wiped his face with one sleeve and said, Do you have kids? No. Do you like kids? I thought about giving the easy answer. Something bright and safe. Instead, I gave him the honest one. I like them when they're honest with me. Max considered that. Ava's arms loosened a fraction. So, I added, you're doing pretty well so far. Max looked at Hannah. I like him. Ava immediately said, That was too fast. People make decisions. Quickly, Max said. Bad people do. I looked at Hannah. Your house has excellent debate structure. She pressed her lips together, trying not to smile. We've had practice. The sitter appeared then from the hallway, a college girl with tired eyes and a backpack over one shoulder. She apologized at least 4 times, explained that her roommate's car battery had died, and looked like she expected Hannah to be upset. Hannah wasn't. She paid her, thanked her, and told her to text when she got home safely. That, more than anything, showed me who Hannah was. Even rattled, even embarrassed, even with her date standing in the entryway watching her real life spill open at the worst possible time, she still made sure the sitter left feeling human. After the door closed, Max started crying again. Not loudly, worse. The kind of quiet crying kids do when they're trying to be brave and failing. Hannah crouched in front of him. Hey, talk to me. I thought you forgot. Her face cracked. Just for a second, but I saw it. No, she whispered, pulling him close. Never. Ava looked away. That hurt too, because she clearly knew how to take care of everyone else's feelings and resented needing anyone to take care of hers. I stayed by the wall and said nothing. That was the right choice. Hannah got Max breathing slowly, then sent Ava upstairs to brush her teeth. Ava went, but not before giving me one last look, as if to say she was allowing this temporarily under protest. Max was harder. He didn't want to go upstairs, didn't want water, didn't want the dinosaur nightlight because the green one looks like it knows stuff, which honestly sounded legitimate. Finally, I said, "Can I try something?" Hannah looked at me. Not desperate. Just tired enough to accept help if it didn't come with ego attached. Sure. I sat on the bottom step still far enough not to crowd Max. When my patients get scared before a hard exercise, I tell them to name 5 things in the room that are not scary. Max sniffed. That's dumb. It is, but it works sometimes. He looked around. Couch. Good. Lamp. Very brave lamp. His mouth twitched. Mom. Hannah's eyes softened. Ava's backpack. Questionable, but accepted. And he looked at me. Your hair. Ava from halfway up the stairs yelled, "That is scary." I touched my hair. That feels personal. Max giggled. It wasn't a miracle, it didn't fix everything, but it shifted the room half an inch away from panic, and sometimes that is enough. 10 minutes later, both kids were upstairs. Max was in bed. Ava had received confirmation that I was not sleeping here, right? And Hannah had answered so fast I almost laughed. When she came back downstairs, she looked embarrassed all over again. Still want to run? She asked. No. You say that now? I meant it earlier too. She wrapped her arms around herself. This is the part most people don't see until later. The real part? The exhausting part. Her voice dropped. The part where I'm not just a woman at dinner. I'm backpacks and night fears and custody schedules and a 6-year-old who sometimes thinks everyone leaves if he falls asleep. I wanted to say something soft. Instead, I said something true. That's not too much. That's your life. Her eyes lifted to mine, and before she could answer, her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it. Her whole face changed again. Not surprise this time, weariness. I knew before she said it. My ex, she murmured. She turned the screen toward me without meaning to. Can't take them this weekend. Something came up. Tell them I'll call. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then upstairs, Ava's door opened. A small voice from the landing said, "He canceled again, didn't he?" Hannah closed her eyes, and suddenly I understood exactly why she had whispered that I could leave. Because she was used to men leaving before the kids even had time to ask why. Ava stood on the landing in her pajamas, one hand on the railing, trying to look older than 8. That was the part that got me. Not the canceled weekend. Not the text. Not even the tired way Hannah closed her eyes, like she'd been hit by something she had already learned to expect. It was Ava's face. A little girl trying to act like disappointment was beneath her, because admitting it hurt would make it worse. Hannah set the phone face down on the counter. Ava, she said gently. He did, Ava said. Hannah didn't lie. That mattered. He said he can't make it this weekend. Ava nodded once. Okay. It was the least okay answer I had ever heard. Then Max's bedroom door creaked open behind her. Dad's not coming? Ava turned fast. Go back to bed. I heard you. Max? He said he'd come this time. Hannah moved toward the stairs, but Max had already started crying again. Not loud. Just small and broken in a way that made the whole room feel too narrow. I stepped back toward the entryway, not to leave, to give the family space. Hannah saw me move and something flickered across her face before she could hide it. There it was again. That reflexive expectation. This is too much. This is where he decides it's not worth it. This is where the real life wins and the date disappears. I shook my head once. Not dramatically, just enough for her to see me mean it. Then I said, I'm going to make hot chocolate. All three of them looked at me. Ava frowned. What? Hot chocolate, I repeated. That seems like the emergency level we're at. Max sniffed. With marshmallows? I looked at Hannah. She blinked, then pointed weakly toward a cabinet. Top shelf, left side. Good, we have infrastructure. Ava's eyes narrowed, but she came down 2 steps. You don't know how we like it. Then I'm open to consulting. Max wiped his face. I like 7 marshmallows. Ava said, he means 12. I do not. You always do. I looked at Hannah. This is already a more organized meeting than most adults can handle. That got the smallest laugh out of her. Not enough to fix the night. Enough to keep it from sinking. 5 minutes later, we were in her kitchen like the strangest committee ever formed after a first date. Hannah warmed milk. I found mugs. Ava supervised marshmallow fairness with the precision of a federal auditor. Max sat at the table with his dinosaur pajama sleeve over one hand, still sad but now interested in whether I knew the correct ratio of cocoa powder. I did not. Ava corrected me. You stir too fast, she said. I'm being efficient. You're being chaotic. That is fair criticism. Hannah leaned against the counter, watching us, and for the first time that night her expression wasn't apology. It was something quieter, almost disbelief. Like she had braced for me to tolerate her children and found me taking notes from them instead. When the mugs were done, we sat at the table. I didn't try to give a speech. Kids don't need speeches when someone disappoints them. They need the adults not to fall apart around the disappointment. Max drank half his cocoa, then whispered, Does Dad not like us? Hannah's face changed in a way I never wanted to see again. She reached for him immediately. No, baby, that is not what this means. But he keeps not coming. I know. Ava stared into her mug. Maybe he likes his new family more. The room went silent. Hannah looked like someone had pressed a bruise with both hands. I stayed quiet because this wasn't my place to fix. But Ava looked at me. Not Hannah, me. Maybe because I was new. Maybe because new people sometimes feel safer to test. Do grown-ups just get to leave when stuff is hard? She asked. That question could have destroyed me if I let it. So I answered carefully. Some grown-ups do, I said. But they shouldn't. Ava studied me. Would you? No. That was too fast, and I knew it. So I added, I don't mean I'd know how to do everything right. Nobody does. But I don't think people should walk away just because someone needs them. Hannah looked down at the table. Max leaned against her side. Ava said nothing, but her arms were no longer crossed. That felt like permission to breathe. A little after midnight, the kids finally went back upstairs. Ava paused halfway up and looked at me. Are you coming back? Hannah's eyes shot to me. I could feel the weight of the question, not romantic, bigger than that. I'd like to, I said, if your mom wants that. Ava looked at Hannah. Hannah looked at me, then softly, I think she does. Ava nodded, like she had approved a conditional application, and went upstairs. When the doors closed, the house went quiet again. Hannah stood near the table, one hand resting on the back of a chair, looking exhausted and overwhelmed in equal measure. I'm sorry, she said. I shook my head. No. I mean it. This was supposed to be one date. Dinner, maybe dessert, maybe a polite text tomorrow, not... She gestured toward the stairs. All of that. I stepped closer. Hannah. She looked at me. I liked dinner, I said. But this is the part that made me understand you. Her eyes went bright. Not crying yet. Close. You can't say things like that after seeing the worst night of my parenting week. I don't think I saw the worst. I think I saw you stay. That was the sentence. I could tell because it hit her before she had time to protect herself from it. She covered her mouth with one hand and turned away, but only for a second. When she faced me again, her voice had gone smaller. I'm so tired of being someone people admire from a distance and avoid up close. My chest tightened. I stepped closer, stopping just outside the space where comfort becomes assumption. I'm not at a distance, I said. She looked at me for a long second. Then she whispered, I don't know how to do this without being scared. Then we don't pretend you're not scared. That made one tear fall. She wiped it quickly, almost annoyed. I really wanted tonight to be easy, she said. It wasn't. No. But it was honest. She let out a shaky laugh. That sounds like something a therapist would say. I work with injured knees. Emotional wisdom is outside my license. That got her. A real laugh this time, wet and tired, but alive. Then she stepped forward and rested her forehead against my chest. Not a kiss, not yet. Just a woman letting herself lean for 1 second. I put my arms around her carefully and she exhaled like she had been holding that breath for years. Above us, somewhere down the hall, a floorboard creaked. Ava, probably, still checking. Still learning whether people stayed. So I stayed. And when Hannah whispered, Are you sure this isn't too much? I answered the only way I could. No, I said. I think this is where the real story starts. I stayed until the house finally went quiet. Not because I was trying to prove anything, because leaving right after Hannah had let herself lean into me felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain without making it sound more dramatic than it was. So I helped rinse the mugs. I wiped Coco from the table. I stood in the kitchen while Hannah checked on Max, then Ava, then Max again because fear has a way of waking up twice before it sleeps. When she came back downstairs, she looked at me like she still wasn't sure I was real. You don't have to stay, she said. I know. You keep saying that. You keep giving me reasons to. That almost made her smile. Almost. Then she walked me to the door, and for 1 second we stood there under the porch light with all the unfinished parts of the night between us. Dinner, the kids, her ex, the Coco, the fact that this date had gone from candlelight to dinosaur pajamas and somehow made me like her more. I don't want you to confuse tonight with romance, she said quietly. I looked at her. I'm not. Her face fell a little before she could hide it. So I stepped closer. I'm saying I don't like you because tonight was easy, I said. I like you because it wasn't. And you were still the person I wanted to stay with. That got through. I saw it. Her eyes went soft in a way that made the whole porch feel warmer. Owen, I'm not asking to be inserted into your family after one date, I said. I'm not asking your kids to trust me tomorrow. I'm not asking you to stop being careful. I held her gaze. I'm asking for a second date, a real one. And after that, if you still want a third, she let out one shaky laugh. That sounds very reasonable. I'm trying to be dangerously reasonable. That did make her smile. Then she rose slightly on her toes and kissed me. Soft, brief, careful, but real. When she pulled back, she looked almost surprised at herself. I wasn't planning to do that. I'm not filing a complaint. Her smile widened, and for the first time all night, she looked less like a woman waiting for something to go wrong. The next Saturday, I came back. Not as a hero, not as a replacement father. Just as Owen, who brought cinnamon rolls because Max had mentioned them once, and Ava had made it very clear that store-bought frosting was a controversial topic. Ava inspected the box. Did Mom tell you? No. Then how did you know? Good memory. She narrowed her eyes. That's suspicious. It's also useful. Max liked me immediately because I let him explain 4 kinds of dinosaurs without correcting him once. Ava took longer. She watched, tested, asked questions that sounded casual and were not casual at all. Do you always come back when you say you will? I looked at Hannah, then back at Ava. I try very hard to. That's not yes. No, I said. It's better. It means if something changes, I tell people instead of disappearing. She considered that. Then she nodded once. That was the first door she opened. Not wide, enough. Hannah and I went slow after that. Real slow. Coffee after school drop-off, dinner when her mother could watch the kids, walks around the neighborhood after Max and Ava were asleep. Some nights, romance looked like holding hands in the driveway for 7 minutes because that was all the time she had. And somehow, I liked that more than any polished version of dating I'd known. 3 months later, Ava handed me a drawing of 4 people standing outside a house. She said, "Don't get weird. It's just because you were there." I did not get weird. I got emotional in my car like a dignified adult. 6 months later, Max fell asleep against my side during a movie, and Hannah looked at me from the other end of the couch with tears in her eyes. "What?" I whispered. She shook her head. "Nothing. I'm just not used to good things staying." So I stayed. A year later, we moved in together carefully with family meetings, bedroom paint debates, and Ava making a written list of house rules for Owen, which included don't leave wet towels anywhere, don't pretend raisins are snacks, and never promise something unless you mean it. I signed it. 2 years after that first chaotic date, I proposed in the backyard after dinner, while Max was holding the ring box upside down and Ava was pretending she hadn't helped pick it. Hannah said yes before I finished. Then she made me finish anyway, because, as Ava said, Mom deserves the full speech. She did, so I gave it to her. And years later, whenever people asked when I knew, I never said the restaurant. I said the kitchen. The night with the cocoa, the canceled weekend, the little boy in dinosaur pajamas, the girl on the stairs asking if grown-ups just leave when things get hard, and the woman who whispered that her kids might be too much. They weren't too much. They were the door. And I was lucky enough to be invited through it. What would you have done if a first date turned into a late-night crisis with her kids, and she quietly told you, "You can leave if my kids are too much"? And have you ever had someone show you the hardest part of their life early, and somehow it made you want to stay even more? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.